In what appears to be a response to the report by EBS Benin, where concerns were raised about the unwholesome activities of private schools with regards to graduation ceremonies, it has prompted Imo, Edo, and recently Benue State's government to take steps to curtail the obvious anomaly, as well as their excesses in the rules with regards to the use of textbooks. Flowing from this development, some Nigerians in Benin City have called on Edo State government to promptly set up a committee to monitor its directive in this regard, particularly as schools are in the next few days expected to resume for the 2025-2026 academic. Edo State government has been commended for its people-oriented policies and programs in Edo State, particularly in the education sector. To help us explore this vision and its impact is Don Omelime, Information Manager and Communicator, Federal Ministry of Information and National Orientation, who has been at the forefront of promoting education, empowerment, and community development. Don, it's nice to have you join us this evening.
To be with you in the studio this evening.
All right, can you begin by telling us what you think about the Edo Book Recycle project, how laudable or how demeaning you think it is?
It's a very laudable development because education is the foundation of success for anyone, any child in the society. And to take education out of the reach of the ordinary child in the state, in Edo State, our society now, which is under consideration, is something that over the years has not been a very good development. When I mean taking education out of the reach of the common child, sometimes what had been happening before the this initiative, this policy was brought to the fore by the Edo State governor, is that books were designed alongside with the textbook, so that it is also designed in such a way that after it's been used once, it couldn't be used again.
Okay.
All right, and that has that brought about a situation where you have to buy books, new books every time. Parents were under the burden, especially this idea was mostly pushed by private schools to make money. Education was just almost absolutely be commercialized and made into a business, and then anything that is a business is actually taken outside of the reach of the common man. And that's what we've seen over the years. But thank God that this governor, someone who has been heard by God and who has also been heard by the will of the people through the electionary process, has thought it wise, and this policy by the Ministry of Education has come to the fore. I believe that is going to really alleviate and remove the burden of buying books over and over from parents, and thereby making education affordable to the ordinary Edo. Now,
I quite commend what you've said, but you took us to a part that no one has ever thought about. Yes. Now you talked about the workbook being laced with, with the text. Okay. Now, so how do you think we can do if it's already worked? Because I know some workbook has this coloring space and all that. How can it be reused by a younger sibling?
And that's another area that the Ministry of Education must take a look at. I want to use this medium to reach out to the Honorable Commissioner of Education to begin to look at that angle and maybe redesign or something. Maybe the policy should be expanded to make sure that the publishers and the authors of these books do not merge certain books together, because the average Nigerian is very smart. The policy can be there that we recycle books, let the younger siblings use the books already used by their elder ones and all of that. But if the books are unusable, how do you go about that? So the policy should expand to such in such a way that people are not crafty enough to
the workbook should be separated from
the text. Otherwise, even when the policy is there, you discover that the books that are merged with it, when the workbook and the text are meshed together, it still becomes unusable.
Okay, now looking at this initiative, from collection to distribution, because if you look at the whole book recycle thing, the Edo State government has made it in a way that if people have books that their children no longer, probably children who have outgrown that age, we have in our bookshelf books that our children use and they've passed that age, and they don't have younger siblings who will use the book. How do you see the collection process from collection to distribution of these books. Edo State government has made it in a way that such parents can bring those books, they've made a collection point. Do you think that it will be an easy, easy project for people to go submit those books? Do you think Nigerians, being who we are, because I'm myself inclusive, do you think it will be easy for us to gather those books, go to the collection points to drop these books for people, that's the underserved now, those who do not have can use it?
Of course, it's not going to be easy, but I will advise if the government can put an incentive, no matter how small it is, because human nature, human beings tend to shy away from things where they don't benefit, things that don't have value for them. So if you have to add a little value to motivate them, to ensure that they know that they are getting something. For example, if I bought a book for 1,000 naira and I am bringing that book back, and I know that I can get 100 or 200 naira by submitting those books to designated points, then I am sort of motivated. So I will advise to make it easier if there can be any incentive by the government to those who are submitting these books, and then also making the collation points also very accessible, places where you can easily drop off those books. And it's also a very it's a laudable development, and there are also other benefits, because by the time you begin to the people begin to bring in these books and submit their designated points, you discover that it also leads to a more clean state. It will bring about cleanness of state, because sometimes people just dump these books, they use them as refuse, throw them away, and then before you know it, they constitute nuisance here and there. But if they are submitted, it also leads to a more cleaner Edo State, a cleaner Edo State. So I believe that government have a lot to benefit. I use the word benefit now. Government have a lot to benefit, because we have a cleaner environment. We have it will also be on record that children who before now were not having access to books are now having more access to books under this governor. I believe that there's a lot of benefit.
Now, let me come in there. When you say government has a lot to benefit, will it be beneficial to government alone or to the parents? Parents who do not have enough funds to buy books for their children. People are now saying, we have used books, come and collect them so that your children can be educated. So I'm thinking I
also believe that the government will score points, very good points here. Because personally, I for one, I am saying that this is a very laudable development. And from the report that we listened to, you heard when people began commending the state and this government. For me, it's a very laudable development. It's a very good one. And then the government is already scoring very good points here. Who wouldn't want a government to continue that can make books affordable to people who before now were not having access to those books in the interiors? Because the policy says not only people in the city, but emphasis is on those who are in the interior. I mean, in the villages who before now were not having access to such books. And imagine what praises and laudation will come to the government when in the interiors, in the local government, people are having books. Some of those books are going to be free to them, I know. Some are going to be free, and if any is going to be purchased, maybe at a meager amount, but this is going to be a very good goal for the government. Well,
as an information officer and as a communicator, do you think that it will be easy for this book to get to the grassroots? I know what you're talking about. You know, Nigerians, we are very good at making policies, but implementation is what is difficult here. So how do you see it, something that might be easy for the government to channel these books to the rural areas, like you said?
If you take a look at this administration of Governor
Okpebholo,
you discover that he is one person that is not politicizing things that much. From what I've seen so far, he's not politicizing things. So a lot of bureaucracy and making things complicated without actually making effect. I want to believe with the way he's going that this government will put in place a system that can make it easy for these books to get to the people that they actually meant.
Of course, like you've said, the governor can be everywhere. The Ministry of Education, rather, you should be channeling this to the Ministry of Education to find a way to get this book across, because the governor has assented to the bill that these books should be, given to those who do not have to read. Now, it behoves on the Ministry of Education to now channel these books to the appropriate quarters.
Of course, when I mean the governor and this government, I'm actually because when we talk about this policy, I took a look at the policy this afternoon again, and I saw part of it was that the Honorable Commissioner of Education, Dr. Emmanuel Padi Iyamu, one of the points of the policy was that emphasis on schools and teachers not insisting on vendors or publishers from which the students can buy books. Now that's already a very positive one also, because insisting that people should buy books from particular publishers or vendors is a form of trying to commercialize it. All right, now I'm bringing that in here because for the policy makers to have emphasized that point, it means that they know that there is a possibility of, even when the books are collected, that there are people who can or who could put a system in motion that will ensure that the very books don't get to those for whom they are meant for. So I also want to say
how do we deal with that challenge? How do we deal with that challenge of the book not getting to those who the box stops on the table of the Honorable Commissioner now, to ensure that these policies are not just policies on papers, that these policies are things that they are ready to enforce. Machinery should be put in motion. A system should be set up, a body should be set up to administer this policy, to make sure that this policy is not just something that is on paper. There should be a committee to ensure that I think I heard something like that on the report. The committee should be put up to ensure that this book get to the very common people for whom they are meant for. Okay, Don Omelime, I would like to thank you so very much for coming on EBS tonight. Many thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So keep your